Hey guys, it's Haley and welcome to another bookish video. Today we're going to be getting into my worst books of 2024. I will link the other worst books of yore, okay? Because we've created quite a stir in past years with my worst books of the year video. In 2022, I triggered a man so bad, he wrote and dedicated a book to me. And then last year in 2023, I was so mean-spirited that I started a coup. And if you don't know about that, then you don't know about that. But if you do know about that, then girl, you fucking know. So let's see what happens this year in 2024. I don't know what's going on here. Hold on. Do we have a ghost? Already things are going awry. Here's my thing about my worst books of the year video. I'm literally going to be walking y'all through my top 10 worst books of the year that I hated. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna give a disclaimer. I fucking didn't like these books. And that's just the end of it. If you get mad that somebody else doesn't like something that you like, you don't understand the concept of free will. Everyone in this world is afforded personal agency, and I celebrate that gift. So I'm going to use my personal agency to tell you today about books that I do not recommend. They're actually the worst books that I've ever read in 2024. And I will say 2024 was a pretty decent reading year for me. When I was planning out this video, I really didn't have many books standing out in my mind that I knew I was gonna rip to shreds and rant about. Like, not a lot of books pissed me off this year. I think it's because I stopped reading extreme horror, and that was like the main shit that would piss me off. And I also stopped really reading books written by men that I hadn't read from previously. So that was helpful as well. Just like not taking a chance on a random male author who's going to write a female character only through the lens of how her body looks in any given moment. So I think those were some helpful factors that created these circumstances for me to not be too pissed off about my worst books of 2024. However, you know your girl has still got a little bit of fire to her. So let's go ahead and get into the rant of it all. I want to let you know before I start, this is going to be mean-spirited. I am going to be hateful towards these books because they're the worst books and I don't like them. If you're not gonna like this, you don't have to watch the video. Before the haters, it's time to clock in. Punch your fucking card, bitch. Welcome to the hater building. It's time to be a hater. We will start out with the book that caused me the most strife this year. And when I say strife, I mean like I felt like I was walking through the desert, quite literally, with no water, parched, looking for any semblance of an interesting plot, anything that wouldn't literally put me to sleep. In order to complete this book in its entirety, I had to walk around my house while reading it, because if I wasn't actively moving my body and using my legs to support me, I fell asleep instantly as soon as I picked up this damn book. Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. This is a part of the Throne of Glass series. It's a part of specifically the tandem read where you switch back and forth between Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms to get the full story because those plot lines happen simultaneously. I think that's a really stupid idea. Especially when Empire of Storms was so good and this one was a boring piece of shit. I hate kale, okay? This book was all about following this man named Kale. That's literally a vegetable. I don't give a fuck. I don't like him. I don't care about him. The only thing that got me through was the tandem read, being able to switch back and forth with Empire of Storms. I almost fell asleep literally every single time I picked this up. She is just not gonna go down in history as the crown jewel of the Throne of Glass series, and I felt like I was way too nice about that in my video because I was enjoying this series as a whole and I was enjoying Empire of Storm, so I tried not to like shit on this book too much in the vlog, but now's the time. Sarah, you done fucked up. You fucked up about a lot of things. Okay, we could have a whole talk about that if we really wanted to be on hater mode. That's not even hater mode, that's like valid mode. But this one, I gotta convict you for this one. I feel like a big thing that really causes me to hate a book is if it's boring. Like, I'm sorry, I am dedicating the little time that I have and the little leisure time that I want to relax to reading your words that you put on the page, and you have the audacity to bore me? Like, that just feels insulting. Like, that just feels like a waste of time. And that is how I felt about Pond by Claire Louise Bennett. I went into this book, it was literally a 5-star prediction. So I had high hopes for this book. It's pitched as like this woman living her life, very plotless and very meaningful. It was about like little moments in time that carried more meaning than you might suspect on the surface. So I was thinking we were gonna get commentary down. I was thinking, okay, this is gonna be a girl living a very aesthetically pleasing life, like doing little girl things that speak to girlhood, that curate the moments that the girls get. And that is not what I got at all. I literally got the most boring lady, just like living her life. And I was looking for the meaning in it or the emotion in it, and I just didn't have that. I wanted it to be character driven, but honestly it was more like place and setting driven, and I just wasn't very invested in that at all. So it read extremely boring. The writing style was also a little bit jarring. It had that like lack of punctuation that I really don't like, so reading it physically was pretty difficult. If I didn't have the audio for this one, I don't think I would have been able to get through it. I just really did not like this book. The reading experience of it, the words on the page, none of it. Next up, we have the Z Word. And this was such a disappointment for me that this is on my worst books of the year, because I thought I was gonna eat this book up. It is pitched as lesbian Zombieland. I fucking love Zombieland. That's like one of my favorite nostalgia movies from my youth. I used to watch it all the time with my friends in middle school, and so I was really looking forward to a gay version of that. Y'all know I love some gay horror, I love some nostalgia, I love a little zombie moments. Unfortunately, the whole cast of characters in this book was insufferable. Every single person introduced was insufferable. Like, if I was an old straight white man and I was homophobic and then I read this book, I would be like, and yeah, I'm right about it, because those bitches are annoying as fuck. And I'm literally queer. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, this isn't helping our case. All these bitches are insufferable, and not in like a fun way. Like, y'all know I love a girl who's a little messy, a little unlikable, a little human, okay? A little flawed, a little imperfect. This was not that. This was full-grown people in their 20s and 30s who read like YA characters and made the decisions of teenagers. Like, they were so deeply immature. They made so many wrong decisions at so many critical points. It was so insufferable. It was so hard to read and take seriously, because I was like putting myself in these people's shoes. If this was my friend group in this situation, I fear we would be handling this a lot better. And my friend group is like the same makeup as what the people were supposed to be in the book. All queer people in their 20s and 30s. Maybe we're on a different vibe, a different energy. I don't know. This was just very difficult to get through. And also the plot was not giving horror, okay? It was giving like quirky, but it wasn't giving scary. Okay, scare me. I want gore. I want zombie content. I want body horror. I want something. It was nothing. It was just these annoying people's immature friendship dynamics from middle school. Like, please grow up. Next up, let's take it back to Boring Town with The Engagement Party by Darby Kane. I can't even get mad at this one, honestly, because y'all told me. Y'all told me in the comments, y'all were like, Hailey, you're not gonna like this book. It's really boring. And y'all were right. I don't remember one singular second of reading this book at all. I remember nothing of the plot other than it was like people that had these things happen to them when they were in high school coming back together after a long period of time for an engagement party, and somebody dies. We had to figure out who did it. Like the most basic Lucy Foley ass plot ever. I don't remember anything that happened. I don't remember any of the characters. There's literally nothing memorable about this in the slightest, and it was so boring. The pacing was so slow. It dragged so much, and I was like, isn't this supposed to be a thriller? Where are the thrills? That is what I was looking for, and I got none. Next up, we have What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I just thought there's no point to this book. This is a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher. I don't feel like this added anything to the story at all in the slightest. And I feel like the story went nowhere. We are following this main character, and they're like this soldier, or like this former soldier who's on a break from being a soldier, and they get contacted by their former bestie's brother. And the brother's like, hey, you gotta come help my sister. She's literally dying of some weird ass disease. There's also some weird things going on in the environment, like the fish and the bunnies and the nature and the people, like everything is going wacko. And so the soldier is like, on my way, bestie. And they show up, they meet up with the brother and a doctor. And the brother, the doctor, and the soldier are all trying to figure out what's going on with this girl, Madeline. And she's just deteriorating in front of our eyes. And that is basically the entire plot of the book. Like, there is really and truly nothing more to it. I wish I could tell you there was horror, any kind of horror. I wish I could tell you there was commentary, any kind of commentary beyond what was already said in The Fall of the House of Usher. I wish I could tell you that there was some kind of twist or shock at the end. It was a cliffhanger. Okay, the ending didn't even finish. It was so unsatisfying. And I felt like the whole thing of the book is like, you guys, the disease is actually this. Huh? You guys, wait, guys, the disease is actually this. So we found out what the disease was at like, what, 30-40%? And then over the whole course of the rest of the book, we're supposed to just say like, oh, wow, yeah, this is what it is. It's just like, what was the point? Maybe I'm an actual dumb idiot dummy because I never claimed to be smart, but somebody explain to me what the fuck this is, because I don't like it at all. Next up, let's talk about Neighborhood Watch. This was supposed to be a very straightforward rich people drama, domestic thriller where people in this little suburban perfect subdivision are getting picked off one by one. We have to find out who the killer is, why they're killing. Straight up thriller, but like some rich people drama, a little whodunit. I love that. And in theory, this book was like fine, but there were a couple comments that just really deeply rubbed me the wrong way. There are queer characters in this book, and the rep was odd, to say the least. And there was a couple weird transphobic comments made as well. It just felt like it wasn't written with a lot of intention at all. And there were a couple tone deaf moments. Y'all, what is going on? Like, it's 2024. Why are we making weird transphobic comments? Like, it's literally odd. And then the thriller plot, like, wasn't surprising. I guess who the killer was. It was just fine. It was just like fine, and it would have just lived on as fine 2.5 if it didn't have those comments, but that really rubbed me the wrong way. Next up, we have The Lies He Told by Valerie Keough. Oh god, this book put me in a 2-month long slump. Remember those months where I just wasn't reading much at all? It's because of this damn book right here. This is a bitch I'm gonna steal your life thriller where 3 women find out that they're all dating the same man, and then he ends up dead, so we're trying to figure out which wife, girlfriend, affair, or whatever killed him. You think that sounds like exciting. Like, I've read a few books like that I enjoyed, that I thought were like pretty scandalous and fun and entertaining, fast-paced, easy to read, no thoughts, head empty. That's the kind of thriller vibe I was looking for with this one. It was painful. I don't know if it was the writing style, I don't know if it was the lack of character development, I don't know if it was the fact that like nothing fucking happened throughout the entire book until the last 10%, but I do not recommend this thriller at all in the slightest. It was painful to get through, and honestly, my reading experience, it took a really long time to read like a 200 and something page book, which was diabolical. But what really got me was the slump that I went into afterwards. This could just be all circumstantial evidence of this book being bad, but honestly, I don't even care. I'm gonna blame the book because my slump came out of nowhere and I could not get out of it for the life of me. I blame her. Sorry, Valerie, it's your fault. Next up, we have Hunting Annabelle by Wendy Hurd, which is a big disappointment because I actually like Wendy Hurd, but this had some very odd mental health rep. Like, it was to a level that I was really unsure what we were going for here. It's about a guy who gets obsessed with a girl and he wants to date her, he wants to love her, he wants to protect her, but because he is a dumb ass man, he thinks the way that he should go about doing that is by stalking her. And when he starts stalking her, he realizes that she has another stalker who's an actual killer who wants to kill her. So now we're following this guy who wants to stalk her as he's trying to kill her stalker and like prevent him from killing her. It was an interesting concept, which is why I picked up the book. But then we got into, oh, I'm bipolar, oh, I'm schizophrenic, oh, I'm this and that. No. We don't need to be doing all of that, because what's going on? Why, for a man to be psycho, crazy, cuckoo, bananas, does he have to have a mental illness? Because I've run into quite a few many men in my days who would do this type of stalking shit if they like a girl because they genuinely think it's kind and they don't have anything, any mental illness, any psychological evaluation is not necessary. They're just a man. I think it should have been that. I don't think we needed the mental health diagnosis as a justification for this man's behavior. I just think it was very poor mental health rep. When things were talked about, it gave me a pit in my stomach. I did not like it. I feel like some kind of therapist or something should have been consulted, not only for the like symptoms that were attributed to each diagnosis, but also for just the empathy and stigmatization that should be considered before you try to represent an actual diagnosis that people are vexed by daily in a murderer, killing, stalking book. I just thought it was very irresponsible, and I thought the twists at the end were like really dumb. Honestly, I enjoyed this book for the first like 50-60%, but then once things started going bad on the mental health front, I was totally out and I was really disappointed. We are down to my top 2 worst books of the year. The rest of these previous 8 have not been in any type of order. I just kind of like talked about them randomly, but these last 2 are the diabolical hits. Like, if I was gonna go Fahrenheit 451 mode and burn some to a crisp, if I was in a survival situation and I had to use some of my books as tinder, these would be the first ones to go. Actually, I wouldn't even need to be in a survival situation. I fear if I was just a little inconvenienced by the cold, I would burn these bitches up. And the first one is One of Us Knows by Alyssa Cole. This is extremely disappointing because I actually really liked Alyssa Cole's last thriller that I read from her, When No One Is Watching. I highly recommend that book. However, One of Us Knows was absolutely cuckoo bananas. We are following a girl. Oh God, do I even want to get into the synopsis here? I can't. It makes me so fucking mad. Like, it actually pisses me off. Now I'm getting like pissed off. Like, talking about Hunting Annabelle was like, okay, fine, but the mental health rep in this book was so diabolical to the point where it was presenting itself as fact, as like proper rep, and there was supposed to be like commentary about the mental health diagnosis that is represented within this book, but it was so diabolically incorrect and reckless and uninformed and stigmatizing that it made me want to punch a wall. As a therapist, do not come around here and try to fuck on a mental health disorder. Like, I will actually clock you down, and that is what I'm gonna do with One of Us Knows. Not only was the plot entirely confused and simultaneously uninteresting, literally the only thing that I felt like I could praise in this book every time I updated my vlog when I read this was the atmosphere. It was an atmospheric book. The characters were insufferable. Boom! The plot was confusing. Boom! The mental health rep was harmful, like actively harmful. Boom, 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 boom. There's truly nothing redeeming about this book other than the atmosphere. When I was on sprints last night with the girly pops of my Patreon, we did some book superlatives where everyone like sent in what they thought was like their best book of the year, their most disappointing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And everyone's worst book pretty much was One of Us Knows or this next one I'm going to talk about. So I feel very validated by the girls, and I don't think you should read this book. I'm just gonna go on record and say I really don't think you should read this book. I think it should be pulled from the shelves. As a therapist, it should be pulled from the shelves. But the piece de resistance, the worst book I read in 2024. This book sounded great. Okay, that's why I put it on the poll to be one of my book club picks to begin with. It sounded great. In theory, We Came to Welcome You by Vincent Torrado. Oh my God, I can't. I actually can't. This book is about a queer couple and they move into a neighborhood, like a gated community type of vibe. And they start to notice that their neighbors are like weird in how they're welcoming them. Microaggressive, but then at the same time they're like being over the top, fake, happy, nice, which is like very white feminism core. Like I see what the commentary was trying to do there. But then a litany of other things started happening. Like their house was weird and maybe haunted. There was disappearances happening around the neighborhood. There were just a lot of subplots that got all tangled up and kind of went nowhere. And the ending of this book, the actual plotted out ending, completely discounted and made moot the entire commentary and driving force of the novel. It was like the worst decision that could have possibly been made was made. It felt so de-empowering. What's the opposite of empowering? Just defeated. Like the end of the book was like some bullshit. That's the best way I can describe it. Some bullshit. And if it would have just been that, like whatever, I would have given it 2 stars and moved on. But my main issue with this book was our main character. We were in her head, okay? Her name's Soul. We were in Soul's head and she was supposed to be driving us through this story. We were supposed to be on her side, fighting for her and her wife to get some justice in the face of all of this racism and homophobia that they are fielding from their new neighbors. And you know, it takes a lot for me to not sympathize with someone who is clearly marginalized and being targeted. But this bitch was so goddamn horrible to everyone around her and took zero accountability that I was sitting there like, girl, I don't know why you want me to feel bad for you, because you are horrible too. You are horrible too. Like I cannot find a shred of empathy for her because she would get so upset when she was the victim, which like valid. But then she would turn around and be an absolute menace to her loving wife. And I was like, I'm gonna go to bat for Alice. Okay, her wife's name is Alice. And I was like, Alice, if you don't get the fuck out of there. This girl is cuckoo bananas. Like a soul needs to get a grip. And I also had an issue with the mental health rep in this book. The way that Soul speaks about therapy is such bullshit. Yes, bad therapists exist, and I think that that should be talked about and represented, and it's a big issue. Trust me, I was in a counseling program where I was looking around at some of my classmates and I was like, oh, don't know how y'all are gonna get y'all's degree. Y'all are not gonna be good out here. Y'all are not gonna be good. So yes, we need to talk about that. But the way that Soul took zero accountability for how she was showing up in therapy and like her therapist, whether they were ineffective, whether they understood her or not, when they would try to nudge her in a direction of taking accountability, she would shut them down. The actual therapist rep, I just know that a real mental health professional was not consulted for it at all. Because the things that the therapist said in this book, like no therapist in their right mind would ever fucking say. Ever. And if they ever said it, they should lose their license immediately. And it was not just like the boundary breaking, insulting stuff that was happening in this book. It was just the way that the therapy played out. Like the questions that the therapists were asking were not therapeutic in the slightest. It was so jarring when this book was so clearly trying to have some poignant commentary on the state of our world, etc., etc. It was just jarring to experience very flawed mental health rep, as this book is trying to say that it's an expert on everything. And I think that was the main crux of the problem that I had, not only with the book, but with Soul as a character, is she was very condescending and acted like she knew everything when the reader could so clearly see all of her flaws, all of her pitfalls, all the pieces that she refused to take accountability for. That was the main issue. It just read so condescending, and I found it really, really difficult to feel any kind of empathy, even though I went in kind of like with that as my goal. Like, I wanted to fight for these characters, and I just left feeling like I hated them. So that's gonna be it for We Came to Welcome You. It'll be up on my Panko books if anyone wants it. And with that, we are done with my worst books of the year 2024. I feel like, I said a couple comments that were maybe a little wild, maybe a little crazy to say, but I kept it pretty tame this year. So I hope my haters, my fellow haters, enjoyed this little video. Girl, if you're mad that I hated a book that you liked, all I need to say to you is go outside, soak up the air, eat a box combo from Raising Cane's. Like, try to find some happiness in your life and use your own free will, because I'm using mine and I'm loving it. And if you feel like you really want to take it out on me, you can drag one of my favorite books in the comments section. I welcome you to do that. Thank you guys so much again for watching this video. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Also, happy Christmas Eve! I think this video is going up on Christmas Eve. Oh my god, happy Christmas Eve! I hope you guys are having an amazing Christmas or whatever you celebrate, and I am so excited for my last Happy Hailey days, which goes up tomorrow on Christmas. We're gonna switch over to a positive point of view, and we're gonna be talking about my best books of 2024, so get ready for that. Also, go to therapy and read a book this week, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!